is a really great day. This is an exciting opportunity, and I wanted to, there's a lot of people that I want to thank. It's almost like Oscar night, but I wanted to talk a little bit briefly about what this project means to our city and what this project means to our community. The 240th Street Bridge several years ago was listed on the front page of the Seattle Times as one of the 5 weakest bridges in the state of Washington. It was literally in very, very bad shape. And that was something that we as policymakers in the city and our employees knew and worked hard to try to address that problem. A little known fact is that I actually live, me and my family, just on the other side of this bridge. We're in the very first cul-de-sac on Fitzgerald Road. And so when the bridge was closed, it had a profound impact on the people on Fitzgerald Road. And also I wanted to take a moment to recognize Councilmember Bill Evans. Bill, if you could stand up and give a wave. Bill lives just on the other side of the North Creek Valley from me off of 39th. And they also experienced an enormous flow of traffic during this time. And the one thing that I appreciated the most about our employees and the contractors that we worked with is that this was not an easy project, having to work around fish windows, having to deal with a really, really constrained schedule and a very constrained ability to work in a salmon stream, is that the spirits of the people who were involved in that project were incredibly high. And whenever I would talk to our Public Works Director, Erin, I would say, how are we coming along like that? And she would say, you know, people are doing the very, very best that they can. And once that bridge was opened, and once we saw how the traffic on 39th cleared out, and you see the end result of it, it's a really beautiful thing. It's a really, really wonderful bridge that's going to stand. It's not just a practical structure that'll move people across and help clear up traffic to our business park and to our churches and to our community here, but it's actually a really striking piece of architecture. And in my family, my father was a civil engineer and my grandfather was a civil engineer. And during the Great Depression, my grandfather in Kansas was responsible for constructing all of the bridges along the Kansas Turnpike. And so in the Lamb family, there's few things that are more beautiful than a well-constructed bridge. And this one is an extremely well-constructed bridge, so you all should be very, very proud. So now I get the opportunity to thank the people who have been involved with this. First and foremost, I would like to recognize Kin G. Kin, please stand up. Our project engineer, Kin G, kept this project moving forward, had a great focus, and really kept a team of many, many different people moving in the right direction. So the City of Bothell, and my family in particular, owes you a debt of gratitude. So thank you so much for your work on that. Another thing that is great about this project, and that I am really thankful to our city staff for, is that it was largely funded by the federal government. It's one thing, and this is a great part that our federal government can do, which is to recognize when there are infrastructure deficiencies, and particularly infrastructure deficiencies that are a threat to health or safety, which this bridge was. So our federal funds were administered by WashDOT, and the WashDOT Highway and Local Programs Director was Sam Schuler. Is Sam here? Sam, thank you. And Tom Boyd as well provided right-of-way assistance. Is Tom here? Tom's not here. We'll give Tom our best. Our environmental reviewers, which was a Herculean task on this job, were Trevin Taylor and Michael McDonald. Are Trevin and Michael here? They're not here? All right, well, please give them our best and thank you. Our prime consultant on this project was Berger ABAM Engineers, and Chuck Spry was our project manager. Is Chuck here? Chuck? When this, I know when this project went out to bid that the staff told me, they're like, we're very interested in who is going to respond to this, because this is a very challenging project, and it was one of those things where we celebrate the opening of a bridge and the completion of a bridge. Now you look at it and you're like, wow, it's amazing, it looks great, it's open. But I really appreciate the work of our consultants and particularly Chuck, because this was a very challenging project, and it was not by any means a foregone conclusion that we would end up as far ahead of schedule as we are today and with as beautiful an end result as we have today. There's also two sub-consultants I'd like to recognize, Ross Widener and Associates, who provided environmental expertise to make the construction possible in the restrictive schedule imposed by the fish window on North Creek. Is Ross, fantastic, welcome. In HWA Geosciences, Jolyn Gilly provided quality geotechnical engineering and quality assistance during construction. All right, thank you. And West Hydraulic Consultants, Dan Eggers. Is Dan here? All right, well, we thank Dan for his appreciation, for his work. I alluded to earlier in my remarks the significant impact that this had on our local community in terms of our residents and in terms of the churches here. It also had a very large impact on our business community. Every morning as I was commuting to work, I would see on 39th a very, very long line of traffic of people who were getting into work. The business community in Bothell, and particularly our two business parks, are the economic engine of this city. These are the people who, the 25,000 jobs in our city, the overwhelming majority of them are in these business parks. And what is good for those business parks, and they do some amazing work in fields of medical device, environmental technologies, work that's recognized around the world. Keeping them healthy and keeping them accessible is one of the most important things we can do as a city. And we had tremendous cooperation from the Quadrant Montevilla Business Park. I want to recognize Bob Hibbs and Holly Jones for granting an easement for temporary detour of the shared use trail. Bob, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. And the Owners Association of the Quadrant Montevilla Business Park, assistance from Earl Wayman, the property manager. Is Earl here? Is not. Well, thank you for that. That was really important to have that assistance there, because this was a big burden on the business park, but they also went out of their way to work and really give some important things to our staff and to the folks who are working on this bridge to make this project possible. The prime contractor on this job was Granite Construction Company, Tammy Wiest and Don Schroeder. Are Tammy or Don here? They're not. Well, they did great work. Also, we had a project of this magnitude, even though this is a smaller bridge. Any public works project, as I've learned over the years, involves a lot of coordination with utilities agencies. So we had a lot of help from Alderwood Water, Frontier, Snohomish County PUD, and Quest. From Alderwood Water and Wastewater, we had David McDonald give us a great deal of help. Is David here? All right. And from Frontier Verizon, Tim Rennick. Is Tim here? He's not. From Snohomish County PUD, Ray Rochelle. Ray, thank you for your help on this. Right. And from Quest and CenturyLink, Bill Bowden. Is Bill here? He's not. All right. Now to the team that we have at the City of Bothell that I am especially proud of. Again, as I mentioned before, Kin Ji, who was a leader of this effort, who did a phenomenal job in bringing this project to a great conclusion ahead of schedule. Keith Russell, our inspector. Keith is not here. All right. And I want to give a special thanks as well to one of the really exceptional staff members in the City of Bothell, who was extremely thoughtful and extremely diligent at finding creative solutions through the maze of regulatory challenges. Steve Morikawa, our Capital Program Manager. Steve, thank you. Syed Safavian, our Transportation Manager. Syed, thank you so much for your work on this. Eddie Lowe, our Deputy Public Works Director. Eddie, thank you so much. Aaron Leinhardt, our Public Works Director. Aaron, thank you very much for this. Tim Liu, our Street and Storm Maintenance Supervisor. Tim. And as I mentioned before, Councilmember Bill Evans. Thank you, Bill. And I really kind of walked a tightrope on this one because there are literally no two council members or probably neighborhoods in the city that were more affected in this, and so we had to be sort of quiet cheerleaders for this project on the council, but it was something where we had great leadership, and there were a number of adjustments that executive staff and the council had to make as this project moved forward to accommodate the very tight fish window that we had, and our staff did that well. So in conclusion, I would just like to thank again our hosts, Evergreen Community Church and Pastor Phil McCallum, as well as Pastor Chuck Goodwin, who is a real treasure in this community and somebody who has worked hard to serve as chaplain to the men and women of the City of Bothell, and has done an outstanding job in that regard. One of the most wonderful things about being mayor of this city is the amazing faith community that we have here. There are so many people of faith in the City of Bothell. There's so many churches that draw people from well outside of our community into this community. And the example that particularly Evergreen Community Church shows, and I think Chuck is a great example of this, is just a really wonderful example of what the church can do when it's active in our community and when it reaches out to people. So Chuck, thank you for your work. Phil, thank you so much for hosting. And everyone, thank you again for a job well done on this project.